what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Heroes Show. You got Cory, Nick, and Shane here, and in this video, we are talking spoilers on episode 3 of Hawkeye, which was entitled Echoes, directed by Barton. It is out now on Disney+. There will be major spoilers, like seriously, major spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode yet, please don't watch this video. Go over to Disney+ and check it out. Like and subscribe to help the channel out. In this episode, we got Echo's origin story. We got a wild chase scene through the streets of New York, complete with trick arrows. We got an almost entirely deaf Clint Barton, and we got a major tease of a major comic book character that we have not seen in the MCU yet. Shane, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
Nick, how are you, sir?
Doing bright.
Perfect. I'm glad to have you both here, and I'm really excited. Again, for like the umpteenth time, this is really big spoiler territory. We're just going to dive right into it and talk about the obvious. So turn away if you haven't seen the episode. But guys, that has to be the Kingpin, right?
It has to be.
100%. It's definitely his voice. It's his chuckle, the same tone. I quickly pulled up a scene from, and granted, it's not white, but I pulled up a quick clip from the Daredevil episode that he was in, and then went to like on my phone. Then I had the clip pulled up with Kingpin, or rather from Hawkeye, him chuckling, and it sounds almost identical. So I think that was the little small Easter egg tease that Feige has given us through this, and it lines up perfect. It could line up perfectly with the comics, right? So
yeah. So to get into comic book territory, they did tweak some stuff for the show. But Echo is Maya Lopez, who is the deaf character that we see in the beginning of this episode. She is of Native American descent. Her father's name is Willie in the comics. I think his nickname is Crazy Horse, which is pretty fun. In the comics, he actually gets killed by the Kingpin. Kingpin gets pissed at him for just like a small mistake and shoots him down. And with his dying breath, he asks the Kingpin to raise Maya as if she's his own. He then later on, like 20 years down the road, blames Daredevil for the death of her father and then sends her after him. So interesting backstory there. She does also get shown in the comics with the handprint over her face, which we got the homage to with the blood handprint from her dad when he died.
However, Awakens.
little thin stormtrooper thing there. However, things are tweaked for the MCU. In this one, it's Ronan who actually takes out Echo's father, which kind of makes things a little bit more personal, and it kind of makes sense that when the Ronan suit has now resurfaced in New York City, that kind of takes us to where we're at. Shane, I know you're not the most avid comic book reader. Is the idea of the Kingpin character showing up in the MCU exciting to you?
The only experience I have with Kingpin is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh God!
Where so he's like large. I hope he's as big as he is in that movie. So that's
not an accurate depiction.
That's the only experience that I have with that character. I'm not a big comic book person, but even I knew who the Kingpin was, and when I saw that hand, like I texted you immediately. I'm like, that's got to be Kingpin, right?
Yeah, which is cool because like even people who aren't really super entrenched in the comic book world, Kingpin is one of the easiest recognized villains that Marvel has done. He's been around forever. He's been a Spider-Man villain. He's been a Daredevil villain. He was, if you haven't watched the Netflix Daredevil show, Vincent D'Onofrio is absolutely fantastic as the Kingpin. And the hope and the rumor is that it's going to be him again here in the MCU. We can only hope that's true. I'm sure that like New Rockstars is doing like a statistical analysis of D'Onofrio's hand and then the hand we saw in the episode to line them up and sync the DNA and make it all match. But man, if that's actually happening, think about this, gents. Episode 5 of this show happens on December 15th. Spider-Man No Way Home comes out on December 17th. And then episode 6 of this show, which is the finale, comes out the Wednesday after, which I think is the 22nd.
Yeah.
There's rumors that Matt Murdock, a.k.a. Daredevil, is going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance that within the same week, we could get Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin and Charlie Cox's Daredevil introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the exact same time, which is like mind-numbingly awesome. Like, Nick, I know you're a huge fan of the Netflix shows. Does that just like make your spider sense tingle or what?
Yeah, I mean, it also shows that you can do great things when you have a plan, unlike DC and Warner Brothers. So I think for this sake, it's lining up everything perfectly. It's bringing things back from the Netflix series, which were especially the Daredevil series, which was probably by far the best out of them all.
Oh yeah.
And again, I think Vincent D'Onofrio as well as Charlie Cox, they nailed the roles so well in those performances. And I think the other person I would like to see at some point, which I think we very well could see at some point, I know the actor would be more than willing to reprise his role, is John Bernthal.
Yeah,
he was a great Punisher, and again, his inclusion was in Daredevil and season 2. So again, I think at some point he could probably surface in the MCU, maybe in another show, perhaps. But that would be pretty great, because then down the line between Kingpin just showing up, even if it was for 15 seconds in an episode, he exists. He's going to have a further plot. And then Matt Murdock coming into Spider-Man No Way Home at some point in the movie. Again, even if it was for one scene that was 5 minutes long.
Right. Even if he's just Peter Parker's lawyer and he's not Daredevil in the movie, right?
Yeah, even if you see a freaking card, a business card that says his name on it, he exists, he's there. And again, pretty sure that Charlie Cox is going to be portraying that role, because I think him as an actor, same thing with Vincent D'Onofrio, they've been doing pretty well in keeping the secret safe. Mum's the word. Unlike Tom Holland, who is all over the fucking place, man. Sorry, pardon my French, but kid doesn't know what to say or how to say it, and goes in every single direction. I'm not playing Spider-Man anymore. I am playing Spider-Man. I don't want to be playing it past 30. I've got big news on the next trilogy that Sony and Marvel wants me to do. It's like, dude, make up your mind or just don't say anything. Man, I don't know. It's frustrating, and it's also awesome at the same time, because we just want good content.
Yeah.
And, continuity for the ongoing future. Yeah.
So you say continuity, and that's an interesting thing, because I think the way they're going to have to go, if this is D'Onofrio's Kingpin, if this is Charlie Cox's Daredevil, or John Bernthal's Punisher, because we know, you've got the Ebony Blade, you've got the Black Knight, you've got Blade showing up. The Midnight Suns could happen. Moon Knight is in the Marvel universe already, so there is definitely a chance for Punisher to come along at some point.
Yep.
However, they have to be variants of those characters, because those shows are extremely violent and R-rated, and the Disney Plus stuff is, it, like Shane said last week, it's very safe. It's PG-13. I'm very curious to see how far they're going to toe the line with a character like Kingpin, who, spoilers for season 1 of Daredevil, that's 5 years old now. He smashes a guy's head with a bowling ball, and he smashes another guy's head with a car door in the first season of that show. And it's very bloody and very violent, and it goes to even darker places than that. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, but in Feige we trust. I believe
they could just pull a WandaVision. It's actually Agatha.
Oh, if they Ralph Boner us. Could you imagine if they tease Kingpin and then it's not the character at all?
They have a song. It's just Agatha again. She's the uncle.
Hey, that song got nominated for a Grammy, so you never know.
God.
But aside from the Kingpin stuff, Shane, what'd you think of Echo's origin? Did that do something to kind of help you latch onto that character?
Yeah, so I have said this numerous times, that the best villains are the ones where we can sympathize, or at least understand them more.
Yeah.
So I liked this little moment. And this is something that TV shows do a lot, where they'll introduce a character and then you immediately get a backstory of that character. Like Lost does it at the end of season 1. You enter the hatch and then you get a backstory of the hatch and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They do that quite a bit. And so it was cool to see that. Her little moments with her dad. I thought the dad did a good job. The actor did a good job playing that. But you get a little bit more sympathy, and I enjoy that. That's why I like Black Panther a lot, is because that villain, you actually kind of understand where he's coming from, rather than a Thanos, where it's he's got his set of guidelines, but he's just kind of this big evil dude. Whereas like the more human connections resonate a little bit more. And I like that in this case, the backstory is Ronan killing her father because it's like a dead, like, this is exactly what is motivating her in this moment. And that's, she has a right to be pissed. So I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Nick, do you agree with that? I think that was a nice little, because it was like 5 minutes that they established her entire background.
Yeah, I think they did a pretty decent job in explaining it, going back to 2007, where she's in school. So we learn about, again, like Shane said, something that's relatable, her struggles, and trying to read lips and only getting certain words, and then signing with her father at home, her wanting to go to an all deaf school, and he says, "I'm sorry, we can't afford it," which is a real life struggle.
Yep.
But it'll be better for you to learn this way, which can be true to an extent. And we see her, in the karate, so we see that she takes up fighting, so she's got moves. So it's establishing this young age of her being able to do hand to hand combat. So it's not like, wow, she knows all these moves and can just fight Hawkeye like that. It's like, okay, but establishing that earlier on is a lot better for her character. Again, to the point where we see Ronan. And I like that whole kind of sequence of shots where she's moving along, and then you just kind of see the action like through the window of Ronan just like murking people. And to the point where he stabs the father and just dips out the window. Right. And in transition from the past to the present, where she's asking Clint about Ronan, and he's essentially telling the truth, but from a certain
point of view,
as a wise Jedi. Yeah,
I am the Ronin.
Yeah, it's like, instead of saying, well, I am Ronin, but that part of me is dead, it's like, so you're Batman and you have a split personality now, like you're both Clint Barton and Ronin, as Hawkeye and Ronin. It's like he was telling the truth in a matter of speaking with, saying he's dead. Well, who killed her? Black Widow. Well, conveniently, she's also dead. And she's like, how do you know? He's like, I was there. And I'm like, yeah, you could have said, well, it was a whole thing about the Soul Stone, and we had to fight Thanos. Like, he could have gone a little bit further on to explain all that, because at that point, everyone knows who Thanos was.
Right.
Maybe that would have been like, yeah, maybe he is telling the truth, because Thanos did kill a lot of people,
right? Especially
all the heroes with the Avengers having to fight all that. So that could have been a little bit more convincing. Obviously, they didn't go that route, because the where he escapes, and then we get that huge action getaway scene, which probably could have prevented that from happening had he truly been able to convince her, right?
Yeah.
So
it might be hard to convince somebody, though, that they went to a planet far away in space and had to sacrifice someone's life to get a magical rock to save the world, and then travel back through time, because they had to go back to 2015 or 2014 or something at that point. So,
but it makes sense that someone can wipe out life with a single snap, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's the world we're living in.
Yeah.
I also think they might be saving that conversation for whenever Yelena Belova shows up to try to kill Clint. Because they set that up at the end of Black Widow in the post-credit stinger. Shane, I don't know if you've even seen that or not.
I'm not.
So Florence Pugh's character, Shane, in Black Widow,
I got that.
Gets an assignment to kill Clint Barton in the post-credit stinger of the Black Widow film. So there's probably a pretty good chance that she's going to show up in this season at some point, which we've only got 3 episodes left. So they've got a lot of stuff to cover. So I thought the action was much better in this episode than it was in the first couple, both the hand-to-hand combat, and I forgot how much I missed a car chase through New York in Marvel Comics, because we've gone so far into the cosmic side of things that like just a couple cars chasing after each other and shooting arrows and blowing shit up, and
Christmas music
and Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy is the first song that comes on. I thought that was all really cool. For the sake of time, I do want to talk about Clint and his hearing going away.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but the scene where his son calls.
Oh, it was great. Yeah.
It was very powerful.
Very, very heartfelt.
Jeremy Renner did a great job portraying that as well.
Yeah, he did. And again, it's like even with Haley, as Kate having to reciprocate those messages, and you just you can hear it, it's muffled, but then you also see the expression on her face having to deliver, he wants to know if you'll be home for Christmas, and like she has this look on her face like probably not, because of the situation that you're stuck in, as she portrays it at the breakfast table.
Yep. It was tough to watch, and it's one of those things where Iron Man died, but he lived a pretty healthy life all the way until he made a sacrifice. Captain America's gone, but he never really, aside from a couple scratches from some fights, Thor is still alive with no repercussions. Hawkeye's the human one that literally just gets his ass kicked over and over and over again.
That was Natasha too, yeah.
Well, yeah, and she's dead. So this show is doing a very good job of humanizing the Clint Barton character. But at the same time, it's also like a cold, dark reminder of all of the really bad stuff he did as Ronin.
He was in a dark spot, and
just murder.
No one would blame him.
He's an Avenger, murdering people. So very interesting.
Quick question for the two of you and then the audience. Instead of kind of playing it out the way it is, do you think it would have made some sense just to take Kate with him home for Christmas, kind of include the family as to what's going on, but not just for the sake of like, hey, here's my protege, but here's the reason why I'm doing this, so I can spend time with you, keeping it obviously on the very DL, because as he stated it to Kate, I specialize in not being recognizable for 20 years. I kept a low profile on purpose. My whole goal was not to be seen.
Sure.
So, and I think even for the sake of Kate, that would probably be a better and wiser idea. Like, hey, let's let the action die down. Let's lessen the heat here on your name.
Sure.
I think that would have, and then come back. Go spend time with your family for Christmas because you promised that. And it's one of those things where you don't know if you'll actually see your kids again. We don't know that. As we're watching it, and it is a lingering thought about what is going to happen to Clint Barton after the end of the series, not just because he's getting old and he's losing his hearing, but because we know Florence Pugh with Elena's coming after him as well.
Mm-hmm.
You got the tracksuit gang potentially with Kingpin now, so
there's a lot of heat there.
There's a lot of heat.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cory.
I was just going to say, yes, that would be the smart move to bring Kate back to his compound or his farm or whatever. But this is a television show, and plot convenience. There has to be bad shit that happens and action and funny quips, which is the Marvel way. So I think that's probably the reason why they probably never even thought of that.
I think that's currently my biggest issue with the show in general is, while there are stakes, they don't seem super important to keeping them there. Like, they could just leave, and like the only thing that's keeping them there is to clear her name on the Ronin suit, but there's no real like ticking clock as to that.
Right.
And like they established the ticking clock about having to get home for Christmas, but like you could just go. Like it's not like anything is keeping them in New York, and that's kind of my issue with the current stakes. The only thing that they could have maybe done to fix this is like show that they're being tracked all the time, or maybe they try to go and they realize they're being tracked, and so they turn around or something like that. You have to
they could just call a Quinjet from the Avengers compound.
You have to establish why they're trapped there, or maybe there's or maybe amp up the story with Haley Steinfeld's mom and stuff, and like there's some sort of ticking clock there, because currently that kind of went cold.
So I think that's a great segue. That's probably where next week's episode is going to start, because this episode ends with Hawkeye's own blade being held at his throat by Jack Duquesne. And I think there was some trailer footage of the four of them in a room talking. So I would guess that's probably going to be the lead off for next week's episode. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Kate's mom has some connection to Kingpin in some way, because if we go comic book style, there's a million different like sects of organized crime, but they all report to one dude, and that one dude is the Kingpin, and he is the overlord of all crime in New York. So that's what I want to have happen, and hopefully that'll be the case. One other thing I want to talk about, because it was fucking awesome. The Pimtech arrow that turned into the giant arrow that blew and up on the bridge.
That was so great.
Oh man, I was like, is it gonna go giant? Is it gonna go giant? Yes, it went giant, and then it just. I thought that was super cool. But
shit.
Score this 1 out of 10, Nick.
I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10.
Okay, Shane.
I'm going with 8. I gave the prior 2 a 7. I think this elevated it a little bit with some emotion. I also like the little like deaf connection that they're making. It's good to have, because the actress is deaf, right?
She is in real life, and she is an amputee as well.
Yeah, and prosthetic.
Oh, nice. Oh, so they've hinted at that too. Okay.
She's a full 100% depiction of the character, and I love it.
Nice. Okay. I missed that until you said that, because like he hits her leg or something and it breaks. Is that what that was? Okay.
Because she's got a prosthetic,
him.
Titanium leg or whatever. Lieutenant Dan.
Adamantium.
Gotcha. One other thing I want to point out is like in the deaf community, there's like certain sects of that community who think different things about hearing aids and hearing devices.
Really?
So I thought it was interesting. So there's a large component of the deaf community who thinks that you should just be deaf. Using a hearing aid is bad. So they kind of hint at that a little bit, or at least that dynamic where she's like, you would be more effective if you just drop the hearing aid entirely.
I
thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. And hey, this could lead to a fight between her and Daredevil, and he's blind and she's deaf, and like that fight could be
battle of the senses.
It's all very exciting. I'm going to give it an 8 too. I think it was the best episode so far by a long shot. It got closer to the source material. A very long shot. They got closer to the relationship that Clint and Kate have in the comics, which is great. Even like the text message with like, "Oh, it's a good thing they didn't call you Hawkeye or they called you Hawkeye or whatever." Like that's the kind of stuff
deleted.
That happens in the comics a lot. They just make fun of each other the whole time. So really excited for it. Can't wait to see more. And hopefully Vincent D'Onofrio is here sooner than later. That is going to wrap things up for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, if you're watching this show, drop us a comment and let us know. We'll respond to everyone that comes through. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. We cracked 600. So yay, dance music here. Yeah. We're still going towards 1,000 though, so we need your help to get further along the way. Check us out on social media. We're on Instagram and Twitter at Real Heroes Show. We've got a ton of other videos that have dropped this week. We talked about Time, Shrink Next Door, The Wheel of Time, this show. We've got a Harder They Fall movie review. Nick's talking about Dexter and True Story over on Netflix, Kevin Hart thing. So plenty of stuff to be on the lookout for. So stay tuned for all of that. Until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Cheers.